Okay, I'm Dave Stelzel, author of The House in the Cloud, CISSP, and I'm recording this today kind of as a summary or a recap of some of the sessions that I've done in recent seminars. So we're talking about security, but what I'm really talking about is transforming the MSP business. So I know a lot of you are in the MSP business, or maybe you're in the data center business, maybe you're in the mid-market, maybe you're in the small business, whatever it is you're in. Right now is a time we need to be thinking, how do we transform this business, because the margins are eroding. We know that. The MSP business is flattening out and things are commoditized. Now, we heard this from Jeffrey Moore years ago, that every 5 to 8 years, the technology commoditizes and you got to do something else. And so he showed us in the technology adoption life cycle how all that works, how to build value proposition, drive through the product. And then at the end, he said, you know what, if you can get into the managed service business, then you can build some kind of business there that's profitable, because everybody's going to need that. Well, you know what? He was right about that. And his 5 to 8 year prediction really does hold true. But in the MSP business, you get a little bit longer of a road runway. And the reason for that is because it's not the product, right? It's something else. It's managing the product. Now, that stuff came out in about 2003. And I don't know when you signed on in the grand scheme of things, but that's like 15 years ago. So what do we expect? We've got to change this business if we want to stay alive. Now, IDC is out there, and by the way, they're right. If you want to really stay in the profitable business, you've got to move into something transformational. And when they say that, what they're talking about is getting out of the infrastructure business and moving into things like artificial intelligence and Internet of Things and whatever it is, IoT or something, data sciences, analytics, things that companies really are looking to as they move into the digital agenda, as they build their digital agenda. The problem is, if you look around at your team right now, look around at your salespeople, look around at your technicians, and look around at your whole process, your infrastructure, and everything you can provide, and ask the question, how long would it take us to get into, say, the robotics business? How long would it take for us to really get into the AI business? Now, I can sell a product that's AI, but that doesn't transform my business. All that does is give me a widget to sell against everybody else who's got the same product to sell. So everyone out there is selling exactly the same thing, and the prices are going to erode. Now, if you've been in this industry for a long time, which I have, probably about 30 years, you know that this trend goes up and down and has been going up and down forever. If you look at large companies like Fortune 500s, I used to work for Bank of America. I worked for Johnson & Johnson before that. We did the same thing. We were looking to Perot Systems or EDS or somebody else to outsource our stuff to. And then a few years would go by and we take it back in-house and hire a bunch of people and build up our staff and then take it all internally. Then a few years later, we go, hey, let's outsource this. We go out and we find people to outsource. Now, that's not going to happen in the SMB market because they can't afford to do that. But what they can afford to do is treat this like a utility, which is what it is. And so what that means is, think about your power bill. Think about your phone bill. If you could get a different power company that charged half the price of what you're paying right now, wouldn't you go with them? Would you sit around and think, yeah, but I really like the customer service at, so-and-so power company? No, you wouldn't. It's just a utility. And you just want to make sure the lights are on. If the lights are on, you're good. Well, that's the way business looks at MSP services. All you're doing is providing some patching, monitoring some of their networks, making sure things are up and running, the backup took place. And as technology improves, all that stuff becomes smoother and easier, and they really just want a good price. Now, there is a way to transform that without going down the artificial intelligence, robotics, data science road, which you can't do anyway, realistically. In fact, IDC said 50% of those companies just trying are just going to go out of business because it's hard. So what is the next thing to do? Well, it is security. Security is the thing. Now, if you have tried to get into the security business and you thought, okay, yeah, we'll sell a firewall, or the service provider that we use for back-end MSP services recently acquired a SIM technology company, or they provide AI as part of the seed offering, or whatever it is, and you think to yourself, hey, we're in the security business. The truth is you are not in the security business. That is not selling security, believe it or not. And here's why. Because everyone who uses that same back-end provider has the same SIM technology and the same AI technology, and they have no idea why they're selling it or why the client's buying it or if the client will buy it. It's just part of the seat package that you've convinced the client that doesn't really understand what they need to buy it until things start to get a little bit tight in their finances. And they look at it and they go, hey, is there a cheaper place for us to get managed services, outsourced IT? Yeah, this company, but they don't have the whole SIM thing. Well, so what? Do we really need that? I guess not. And then they just go with it. Not to mention that all the competitors of that back-end company, if they think it is a good idea, if they think it's growing, they're just going to go out and buy one too. And they'll have antivirus, and they'll have SIM, and they'll have a SOC, and they'll have all those things on their offering as well. It's going to be exactly the same thing. And you'll still be trading back and forth, either within the same provider or a different provider for a cheaper price, just like you would with your power company. Now, what does it mean to sell security, though? Security is a discipline. Security is helping somebody identify what they've got, what they need to protect, what the threats are out there, and actually doing that for them. And until somebody knows what those threats are, they're not going to be willing to pay for it. So when I say transform your business into security, I'm not saying get rid of the infrastructure business. I'm not saying get rid of the data center. I'm not saying get rid of the MSP. I'm simply saying to introduce a way to show them what their real risk is, design their solution around protecting their most critical asset, which is data, to help keep them alive and show them on a regular basis what it is you're helping them do by defending their company against hackers, inside threats, operational error, and all the different things that threaten the lifeblood of any company, which is their data. So there's three things that I want to share with you today, whether you attended the event or not. Hopefully I can give you enough right here that's going to help you start at least thinking about what is it we need to do here in terms of transformation with our business going forward. So the three things I want to go through. The first one is you cannot sell security, and write this down. You cannot sell security if you don't perform an assessment. It's like a doctor going in and trying to do surgery without doing any analysis of the patient. Has no idea what's wrong with the patient. He just starts diving into surgery. Does that patient want that surgery? No. Are they going to be willing to pay for it? No. And the same is true with security. If you don't go in with that, you got nothing. Because it's kind of like buying insurance against something that you have no idea exists. It's like somebody hiding a car in your woods and saying, hey, you need car insurance, and you going, okay, sell me some car insurance. No, I got to show you some risk or provide a law that says you have to have car insurance before I can get anybody to go out and buy car insurance. Security is not insurance, folks. Security is defending the castle against the attacks that you can actually point to. It's not the proposed attacks, it's actually the real attacks. And so I need a way to get in there. Now, in my session, if you listen to my session, I shared with you about a bank that we were in, and there were many companies we were in, just like that bank, where we were trying to sell firewalls. This is back in the year 2000. We're trying to sell firewalls, intrusion detection, and other security widgets. And you know what? The client is doing bake-offs. They're comparing price. They're looking at budget. And at the end of the day, they're saying no, or in some cases, yeah, but who can I get the best price from? And in this particular bank, they had a competitive product to ours, and it was working. They just needed to upgrade it. They asked us for a quote. We couldn't give it to them because we were brought in by a manufacturer, so we had to be loyal to our partner. And at the end of the day, we would have just lost the deal. But when I got in front of the executive team and I started to get into my pitch, it occurred to me, this isn't about a firewall. This is about protecting the company's assets. And so I went down that road, and I proposed an assessment. Not only did we take a 3 months so far that probably would have gone into 6 or 9 month sales cycle and convince them immediately, I mean within the week, to do an assessment. We also got to charge for that assessment, and in the course of doing that assessment, I was able to double the price. And you know what the outcome was? The outcome was that we found some really scary things that they couldn't believe were true inside their small bank. That led to about 3 years worth of business, including an MSSP contract, support services around security, all kinds of security technology and monitoring. And by the way, they even people tried to hack in while we were monitoring their stuff. And so we had an opportunity to really get in there and help them and defend them. And we also sold other stuff, other infrastructure, because we were in there and because they formed a liking to us as they saw us providing real value. It was no longer about price, it was about value. So there has to be an assessment. Assessment opens up the door, allows you to get in with the urgent need, and then expand inside. Number two, everybody needs this, security. Everybody needs this. The problem is they don't know it. Now, if you open up any paper, any news feed, you're going to see security stuff in there. Problems, hacks, people being compromised, data being stolen, all kinds of stuff happening that is just downright bad for people and business. But if you go in and you talk to the average small business owner or even mid-market business owner, you find that they have no idea what they need. In fact, whenever I go out and speak in conferences, I usually ask, how many of you have had a security assessment in the last 12 months? And you know what? It's like 2 or 3% of my audience will raise their hand. And then that's it? Like nobody else? In other words, nobody in this room even knows what their risk looks like and hasn't even bothered to measure it. Now, why would they do that? Because it doesn't even occur to them that they might be a target, even though it's in the paper every day. Like, what's the story with that? So if I could come up with a message that would compel them to actually do the assessment, chances are I would find something. And in fact, when I do go in and do an assessment, we find that probably 90% of the time, there is something in there that we would consider urgent. And when we show it to somebody and we put it in the right language, that's key, business language, business risk, that it closes. Remediation, which rolls into an ongoing need to manage, to monitor the security of that environment. And from there, it only grows. Okay, so everybody needs this, but nobody really understands that they need it until they get the message. And that's where I went into the house, the cloud, and the coverage model. A lot of that's covered in this book. By the way, you can get this on the home page of my website at Stelzl, STELZL.us for $1. And at least right now, it might change, but right now it's $1 free shipping, okay, if you live in the United States. And I think we do Canada too, okay? So Canada, United States, you can get that book for $1. And I'm telling you, step by step, I show you in that book exactly how to formulate this message, how to get in there, and how to close business, okay? So if you haven't read that book and you want more on this, you definitely want to get that, Stelzl.us, okay? So there it is. They got to have it. So number one, you've got to have assessment. Number two, everybody needs this. Nobody really realizes it. So you've got to have a message to compel them to do the assessment. Once you do that, you're going to close business. Number three, it's not as difficult as you think it is. Now, here's the interesting thing about this. I have looked at and studied probably thousands of assessments at this point in my career. I've been doing this business here for 15 years where I'm coaching and I'm training and I'm helping companies transform their business. And I'm looking at their assessment deliverables. And I'm telling you, these deliverables don't do the right thing. They don't communicate risk to the executive. In fact, they're all about port scans. So if you're one of those companies who's bought into, hey, we need this SIM technology, we need this antivirus technology, oh, we should use this scanner. And this company, provides scanners to the SMB, MSP space, and they show up at every function that you do, and they're selling their scanner. Well, I got news for you. Scanners aren't security either. Now, do you need them? They're not a bad idea. They show you where the open ports are. They show you where patches are missing. They show you some interesting data, but that data will never convert anyone to security. It really won't. I mean, if they're already convinced and you show them the scanner results, you might go, hey, it closed. Okay, cool. But if you show it to somebody who's not ready to buy something, they're going to look at it. It's gibberish. It doesn't really mean anything. What do they really need? They need a measure of risk. Risk is impact likelihood. Here's my data, okay? Along this x-axis. And different levels of impact, high impact, low impact. And as I'm looking at those high impact areas of data, the question that should be in my mind as a business owner is how much exposure do I have? Just like your health, right? Looking at your heart, looking at cancer, looking at other kinds of disease and saying, what would be the impact of me being diagnosed with cancer tomorrow? It'd be devastating. Or having a heart attack right now. It'd be devastating. But the question is, what's the likelihood? What's the likelihood that's going to happen to me? And if that likelihood is low, I don't need to really do anything about it. Just manage it, monitor it, check. But you know what? If it's creeping up and if it's getting high, if it's getting to a serious level, I better do something about it. So what we've done is we've redesigned the assessment process to make it easy for business owners to look at. Impact likelihood. And we're basically looking at this not from a port scanner and an architectural viewpoint, but from a data viewpoint. I call this asset-focused assessment. Okay, and this is not what's being done out there, and I don't know why. Okay, I mean, it seems so obvious to me that you'd want to look at the data, and you know who does this really well are the disaster recovery people. See, when they get into a company, they don't do port scans. They go right to the executive leadership, and they ask the question, what's critical here? What's important? What processes, both people and data and systems, have to be up and running, and how long can they be down, and how much data can you afford to lose, and what happens if that happens, and what do we need to do to make sure that's not the case, that it actually works. And then they go and they test, right? They test how fast can we fail over if this happens, if that scenario happens. That's the way they look at it. So we've designed our security assessment around that process. And guess what? On my homepage, you can actually download our assessment template. It's right under the big banner, right in one of those boxes. One of those boxes on the bottom there is the assessment template. And in there, we give you exactly the same assessment that I used back in 2000 to 2003, where we built a security practice for a global integrator. And we took that practice, which was brand new to the company, from 0 to 33 million in just 3 years. Okay? I mean, tremendous growth simply by focusing on data. Then we're starting out with the executive team and we're finding out what is critical here. And then we're talking to the end users and we're identifying workflow and where this data gets created, where it gets used, who touches it, when it gets archived, who deletes it, who can delete it, what policies govern this thing. And then we take a look internally in our team and we look at it and we go, okay, what would have to be true for this to actually work? And once we know that, then it's easy to go back into that company with a technical walkthrough and see, do they have this in place? Can they actually do this? Just like the DR test. Can we fail over? Can we get back up in time? How does this all work? And so we test those theories. And then we also collect data. See, scanning doesn't find malware, but collecting data does. Protocol analysis is what that's called. And there's a number of different tools out there in the market that can analyze protocols. But when you start seeing stuff like BitTorrent and other kinds of protocols out there that you don't even need to know the name of necessarily, but your technical guys do, they can look at that and they go, you know what? That protocol probably doesn't belong on here. And why is that workstation communicating with a blacklisted IP address somewhere overseas? And these kinds of things start to ring some bells like, hey, there's something urgent going on here. And when we bring this back to the executive team, not IT, but back to the executive team in a condensed business level risk analysis report, impact likelihood, it is not hard. It is not hard to get them to move forward and change stuff. When you tell somebody your computer is likely infected with something, software from somewhere overseas, and they have control of your computer, and they can see you through your camera probably, and listen to you through your microphone, and capture your passwords when you're typing in your bank credentials and so forth, suddenly bells go off in the head of any executive leader. And you know what? They want it out. So in summary, here's the thing. If you want to grow monthly recurring revenue, you need a way to grow your business. You need a way to get new leads. Nobody's listening if you're just out there introducing your company, talking about another MSP service, unless you're the low-cost provider, which means there's no margin left in your business. And you're going to be competing with some very large companies that have managed to get that cost down to almost nothing. And if you continue down that road, your business will not last. How long will it take you to convert your business from that to something else? Getting into the security business is pretty easy. A lot of the tools are already there. They're coming in through your managed service partners. Cool. What do you need that's going to sit between you and them, though? The technology will not sell itself. You've got to have an assessment. You need to realize that nobody out there cares about your MSP, and nobody out there thinks they need security until you can get in there with an assessment, but you need a message that will convert them to that assessment every time or most of the time so that you can maximize your selling process. And number three, you need a way to get in there and measure true risk, ask the right questions, and give the executive leadership what it is they really need, and that is, how exposed are we? Again, I'm Dave Stelzel, author of The House of the Cloud, CISSP, helping companies around the world convert to security. I hope this is helpful in the summary video. If you want more, you can visit us online at Stelzel, STELZL.us. You can get the book for $1. You can get the assessment template for free. And there's a bunch of other stuff out there that we can help you with if you just connect with us. We'll see you out there.